Wesley Kirton at AOL.com.
Everybody's a brain.
Bremner at hotmail.com. Bremner at hotmail.com. Then Rishma.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Bremner.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you for being a part of the show today. We're just waiting for Mr. Kirton and Ms. Eckert to join us.
Okay.
But you might be hearing some music or some commercials going in the background, okay?
That's fine, yeah.
All right.
Energy Radio 1, real energy for real people. Keep it locked. Richie Fade said that.
Yo, greetings, my people. I am Jawiz. At any time you tune into Energy Radio 1 on a Sunday morning, at 7 a.m., you're going to get BBC News. At 8 a.m., is Sherry S. with God Bless Sunday. At 9 a.m., Rain Cloud, Gospel Swing out of Canada. 10 a.m., DJ Merciless the Dancer with Glory Days out of Arizona. 12 p.m., DJ Chris with Sunday Serenade. 2 p.m., DJ Remix with Mix Connection out of Canada again. 4 p.m., Fenton Troy with the Vintage Showcase. At 6:30 p.m. is DJ Andrew with Timeless Sunday. 8:30 p.m. DJ Randy with Retro Sunday. And then Jojo Mac or Roving Reporter out of Philly. Zine. So guess what? Sunday, stay tuned. Don't move a muscle. Energy Radio and up here excitement. You don't know. Jawiz said that.
I could tell you keep it secrets from me. Why you always keep it secrets from me? I know that you got some secrets. Don't know how long you could keep it.
Every Wednesday from 7 p.m. until Secrets. Join Lady Rose on Success Radio for Secrets. We all have them. It's time to share your secrets. Remember, every Wednesday from 7 p.m. until on Success Radio. Secrets.
You're hooked on the eerie vibes of GluFM.
A station with purpose.
Energy Radio 1.
Yes, you are story, I tell you.
24/7 we no sleep at all.
What him gonna do you now?
Some boy are going like they want to fight against Energy Radio 1.
Well, fire for the.
You are listening to Fun City Radio. Fun City Radio and FunCityRadio.com.
Greetings. This is DJ Ayana from Soyeni Sound. Do you want to hear the latest and the greatest in dance music? Well, tune in every Friday for the Global Dance Party. right here on GluFM, streaming live from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's DJ Ayana and the Global Dance Party. Keep it live.
They say that if you want to hide anything from the average person, including the keys to their mental shackles, you should put it in a book. Are you brave enough to get Patrick Gaynor's Planet Hurt, Volume 1, The Idea and the Process, the greatest book ever written about your life? Find it in various forms on planethurtbook.com, Amazon, and all reputable online platforms where books are available. You'll be glad you did.
Join us live every Tuesday from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on GluFM for Minding Your Business with me, Attorney Rishma Eckert, to discuss the law and your business. Email us with your questions at info@mybshow.com. And remember, success comes from minding your business.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Minding Your Business. Thank you guys for carrying us on your platforms. Full Force Radio in Kentucky, Success Radio over there in Canada, the English Connection Media in UK, Energy Radio 1. Thank you guys so much. Thanks to all our listeners. You guys from our last two episodes are still sending in questions. So that tells me that those two episodes really, had a major impact on you guys. So thank you to everybody who's sent in their messages. For episodes of Minding Your Business, check out GluFM TV on YouTube. Text your questions to 862-215-3979 or 646-742-7324, or send your inquiries to info@mybshow.com. Rishma, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. We're still waiting for Mr. Kirton to join us, but we have Mr. Bremner here.
Okay, well, I'll do my intro and then we'll go from there. So welcome to another episode of Minding Your Business. I am your host, Rishma Eckert. I'm an attorney with Eckert Law, PLLC. Good to have you here because today we are doing a small business spotlight with an organization that I am very familiar with and happy to be a part of, but we'll get to that. So let's go through some of our housekeeping stuff. We all know that the PPP program is still there and it's going to be gone at the end of this month. I believe the deadline is May 31st. So if you are still trying to get funding for your business and you felt the effects of the pandemic, please go to sba.gov so that you can see if you're eligible for funding through the PPP program or the EIDL program. Again, that site is sba.gov, and those loans are there specifically to help businesses who have suffered loss due to the pandemic. Now, again, our annual reports were due May 1st. So if you have not yet filed your annual report, you are going to now be subject to a late fee, but you have to file them. If you do not file them by sometime in September, then the state of Florida is going to administratively dissolve your company, and you absolutely don't want to have that happen because then you would have to pay for it to be reinstated, pay the late fee, and still file your report. So for those of you who did not file as of May 1st, please go ahead and do that now so that you don't forget about it again and be subject to administrative dissolution. Small business spotlights, we try to do them once a month. We definitely want to highlight businesses within our area so that they can have global exposure. Because as you mentioned, Lisa, we are in Florida, New York, Kentucky, Jamaica,
Canada.
Parts of where else?
Canada, UK.
Canada, UK, parts of Africa, parts of Asia. This is the place that you would want to come and make sure that you get your message across. Again, small business spotlights, we do everything from if you're selling goods or services, and we have today a not-for-profit, we have a chamber our first chamber, but definitely not our first not-for-profit that we're going to be talking about. Again, good place to get that information out to the community. We also have a segment of Ask MYB. If there is something that you would like for me to cover, please go ahead and let me know so that we can create a show around it, or that we can at least have a discussion about it. No one asked about our last shows, Lisa, with the police and you, but I just think it was so topical that I wanted to make sure we address, and it was a huge hit. Yeah. So, you know, you never know, something that may be bothering you, something that's applicable topic in today's society. If you would like for us to have a discussion about it, cover it, have our guest speakers talk about it, please let us know, because we're here to create content that's going to be helpful for you, our listeners out there. This week is actually Teacher Appreciation Week. I thought it was last week, and I did a whole spiel about thank you to all the teachers, but you know, gratitude is never wrong or too early or too late. So this week is actually Teacher Appreciation Week. So thank you so much to all our teachers out there. It's been really tough for you guys to be doing the e-learning with students at home, especially little students, and maybe even the older ones, because they get more distracted and they're playing video games or whatnot. But thank you for all that you do. It's very, very appreciated, especially for working parents who are, you know, we appreciate you taking the reins and doing extra and going over and beyond to be able to take care of our little ones. So thank you to all the teachers out there. Big shout out to Miss Paget for my older child's teacher, and Miss Donna and Miss Marissa for my younger child. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. So my quote of the week today, I absolutely love this one. It's from Helen Keller, and she says, "Alone we can do so little. Together we can do so much." And I love that quote because I always talk on this show about unity, Caribbean unity. I always talk about our communities, how we can have resources for our communities, how we can help our communities. And why is that? Because we have to stick together. We have to be able to have that bond and that social cohesion and literally help each other for us to be able to get us far. So again, I love having that quote on this show because we're going to talk about yet another Caribbean organization that is going to be able to provide resources for our communities again. Now, with that said, I would like to introduce two very important, well-spoken people from the Caribbean American Chamber of Commerce, Inc. We have today on our show, Mr. Brian Kirton, or as I call him, Ambassador Kirton, and Eldon Bremner. And we are going to discuss our small business spotlight for today, which is the Guyanese American Chamber of Commerce, Inc. So gentlemen, welcome, and please go ahead and introduce yourselves to our listening audience.
Well, good afternoon, Rishma, and thank you for having me. I see where you refer to me as Brian, which is one of my names, but everyone knows me as Wesley. It's since the advent of 9/11 where one has got to use one's first name on most documentation and so on, that this Brian thing has come up. I sometimes even forget that's my name. Yeah, but thank you for having me. I am the president of the Guyanese American Chamber of Commerce, one of the founders of the chamber, and I am happy to be on and to be able to discuss the work of the chamber with you. Currently, I am a business person. I've kind of straddled a number of fields during my lifetime, from journalist to diplomat to business person to community activist, and all of those separately and at times combined. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bremner, do we have you with us? No? I see your picture, but I'm not sure if you are behind there. If not, that's fine. When he jumps back on, we can get Eldon Bremner involved as well. So, Guyanese American Chamber of Commerce. Let's hear a little bit. I have a lot of different questions about, you know, what the mission is and where we're going with it and eligibility and all that. But for right now, tell us a little bit about the history of the organization when it was formed, and the mission of why you mentioned you were one of the founders of it. Why have this chamber?
Sure. Well, thank you. In 2014, a group of us got together informally, looking at how we may work towards protecting and advancing the interests of Guyanese American-owned businesses, of course, in the US, and businesses that cater to Guyanese Americans, and even Guyanese businesses in Guyana that would have some link with businesses in the United States. This was influenced by a number of issues, among them the growing tendency for there to be misinterpretation of some laws, particularly when it came to trade. We had, for instance, a situation where a Guyanese business had imported mosquito coils, and I suppose you've got to be from the Caribbean or from the third world to know a little bit about mosquito coils. But it's basically something for your American and listeners and other listeners who may not quite understand what is a mosquito coil. It's basically something that you burn that gives off a scent and a little bit of smoke.
It's like incense.
It's like incense.
A little bit, yeah.
Keeps the mosquitoes away. And so this business imported these mosquito coils. It was its importation was approved by every competent authority in the US that needed to give its approval, and it was on the shelves of this business when a representative or an officer from the US Environmental Protection Agency went into this business, saw it on the shelves, and said that there was an ingredient that violated the EPA regulations, and that person that business was charged. I think they had 9 boxes of these coils on their shelf, and they were charged with 9 conks or 9 violations of this EPA requirement or law. And I think at the time, if I remember well, the fine for each skunk was, I think, $9,000 US. So we were looking at an $80,000 bill for a business that could hardly afford, that would have basically gone out of business had they had to deal with that in terms of paying those fines. So that kind of led to us discussing the need for this kind of organization. And within months, in 2015, we kind of, we did register the Guyanese American Chamber of Commerce, and we kind of got it going with an interim board before we had any elections and so on. We had this interim board, and by which time we found out that the issue of the coil hadn't been resolved. And so we got involved and in touch with a number of agencies and some elected officials and all that. And we were able to reach an amicable, I would think, settlement where, because the charges were already laid, they could not have been withdrawn. Well, all of them could not have been withdrawn, as I understood it. So, in fact, the business was only charged with 1 count of the violation. But that led us to lobby for closer U.S. interagency collaboration, the FDA, the EPA, and so on, so that we could better share information with small businesses so they understand what has to be done, and they're not misled by just what might be one agency's position on a product or
Right.
service, that there's that holistic understanding of the thing. And we've had since then quite a few cases that we've worked on to help small businesses. So that basically is how or what led us to get started when we found that there was this issue of the mosquito coil.
So it sounds like it was born out of advocacy for the Guyanese community. This company was in Florida or US or in Guyana? Where was it based?
The Guyanese American company is in the US.
Okay. Okay, got it. Mr. Bremner, do we have you with us?
His pictures keep changing, but
I know he's there. I can see him. I don't know if he can.
I'm hearing you, but I don't know if I'm having internet problems. But it seems as though when the video is on, it affects the I think it's my memory, my beautiful memory or something. But I'm on.
You're here.
Every now and then you're cutting out. I don't want to switch to the computer. It might be a little bit of an issue to get on with my earphone to the computer. So stick around here.
Okay, good. At least you can hear us and I can hear you. I want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself because I gave Mr. Kirton the same opportunity. So can you please, for our listening audience, introduce yourself?
Yeah, well, my name is Eldon Bremner. I'm a retired hotel executive in that I started as a financial controller in a hotel in Guyana, Pegasus in Georgetown, Guyana, and did a few stints internationally through my hotel chain, which was a British chain. It was Forte, in the early days, Trust House Forte.
I think he might have been frozen.
Yes. Yeah, I apologize, audience. Mr. Bremner is having some computer difficulties.
Yes, I think at our age, we are technologically challenged to some extent.
Well, we'll just continue with you, Mr. Kirton. So born out of advocacy for the Guyanese community, currently, so that was in the past, currently, what sort of missions or what is your mission right now for the Guyanese community?
Well, I think Eldon might be back, so I can.
Yes, Mr. Bremner, please continue.
During that time, throughout my stint at the Guyana Pegasus, I was at Jamaica Pegasus. I was also the deputy general manager by default because we were myself and the GM were the only two expatriates, and eventually I became the general manager. I got an award from the Jamaica government for my contribution to hospitality in Jamaica, because Jamaica Pegasus was the premier hotel, I would say, in the Caribbean at the time. Whoever comes to Jamaica or whatever state banquets they have, it has to be done by the Jamaica Pegasus. So we were a class act, and I was proud to be there and to be associated with that category of hotel throughout my life. And so I'm now retired. And Wesley, who is a friend of mine, and who also recognized me through his association before I joined up with the Guyanese American Association, has recognized me for my contribution to the Guyanese in Jamaica.
Thank you so much. Wow, you have a very diverse skill set for the chamber. When you look at the backgrounds of those, and I've had the privilege of meeting, or at least electronically meeting, some of the other board members, and it's just such a vast, you have everywhere between hospitality, foreign ambassadorships, you have, marketing. I believe oil and gas was one of them, a lady that I met for, one of our meetings. And law, because in full disclosure, folks, I am Guyanese born, grew up in Belize. So I am also on the board of the Guyanese American Chamber of Commerce. And quick backstory before we get into the mission. I met Wesley, I can't even remember what year it was, but I met you through my association with the Greater Caribbean Chamber of Commerce way back in the day. It might have been 2014, 2015. And at that time, I knew we have a lot of mutual friends, and we had other people who were associated with that organization as well. And we got to see that unity that I was talking about, doing things together, trying to have a mission of actually advocating for Caribbean people within Florida at that time, specifically in Florida. And for me, it was such an eye opener because I was always in the legal world, working, but I didn't really, had an opportunity to do much networking within my own community. So when I went to those first couple of meetings, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then from then on, for my own past history, I did join the Belize American Chamber of Commerce and now the Guyanese American Chamber. So, we're trying to do it all for everyone involved. So let's jump forward, back to our mission today. So in the past, we have advocacy for companies. We try to connect them with resources and education. How is it that you want to develop the mission for the Guyanese American Chamber now?
Well, Rishma, the mission is to protect and promote the interests of Guyanese American business, and like I said earlier, businesses that serve the Guyanese American community, and even businesses in Guyana that have a link to businesses here. We see our mission and our objectives as being able to, one, advocate both here and in Guyana on behalf of the business community to have their concerns, their issues addressed, to, where applicable, help to formulate policy that would be in the best interest of our members, to share timely information, or to share information on a timely basis that would help to advance the feasibility and the financial success of businesses, and generally to generate or help to generate an atmosphere that is conducive to doing legitimate business, legitimate relationships in terms of whether it be trade, investment, access to financing, and that kind of thing. So that's our mission, and I think in recent years it has become even more important. One, with Guyana now having emerged as a major oil and gas destination. Well, we call it a destination.
Producer.
Pardon?
A producer, oil and gas producer.
Right. Also, with a changing global business environment that is occasioned by new rules, both in terms of bilateral relations and multilateral relations, such as new rules emanating from the WTO and other international organizations. And then more recently, over the past year, the impact of COVID and how best businesses, small business, might prepare themselves to rebound.
Right. Reinvent
themselves, even as this era of COVID continues.
Very good, very good. Let's talk about, I like that you brought up the oil and gas, because I actually was going to bring it up as well. Let's talk a little bit about Guyana, the businesses coming out of Guyana, and then we can talk about the US. The businesses coming out of Guyana, what are the major businesses besides oil and gas that you see coming out of Guyana? Import-wise, export-wise, and also what are the main industries in Guyana? I know Mr. Bremner mentioned hospitality and travel. What are the biggest sort of GDP earners in Guyana?
Well, it's going to be oil and gas, if not yet, eventually. Agriculture and agribusiness, we export a lot of rum. Of course, Guyana has what is supposed to be, or not supposed to be, what is
it's award winning.
Has been award winning, yes.
Yes.
The Eldorado 15-year-old and the I think it's the 8-year-old that consistently won awards for a number of years. Well, in agriculture, sugar used to be a major exporter, but the industry has fallen back, particularly given the fact that we no longer enjoy preferential access to markets on any large scale.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's gold and diamond, that mining that offers a lot of opportunities for investment, but it's also a major revenue earner for the country.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's, of course, the forestry industry, timber, that is also a major earner, and another area of activity that's open to investment. And of course, all these that I've mentioned offer great export opportunities. As you know, Guyana, though geographically located in South America, is a part of the Caribbean community, CARICOM, and so products from Guyana enjoy preferential, at least most products, and services enjoy duty-free or concessionary access to the member states of CARICOM. That if you were to include Haiti in that thing, we're talking about almost about 20 million, a population of about 20 million,
yes,
thereabout. Then, of course, there are bilateral arrangements with the U.S. and the Caribbean, setting through what used to be called the CBI, the Caribbean Basin Initiative, which is now called the Caribbean Basin Economic Recovery Act, and the Trade Partnership Agreement. Those provide for duty-free access into the U.S. for quite a number of products. And then we have arrangements with the EU, and then some bilateral agreements with some countries that are not always entirely free access, but there's something called partial scope agreements. And these partial scope agreements can identify products that are eligible for specialized treatment, duty-free treatment, and those that are not. So and of course with Canada as well on the CARICOM, which is the Caribbean Canadian trade arrangement. So in terms of coming out of Guyana, those are some of the products and the fact that these products, or most of them, enjoy some kind of preferential arrangement for entry into these major markets. And then on the import side, or from the export side from here, I mean, the U.S. is
a lot.
The U.S. is our major trading partner.
Yeah.
The U.S. enjoys a healthy advantage. Exports from the U.S. to Guyana are far more than the value of exports from the U.S. to Guyana. That value is much more than the value of exports from Guyana to the U.S. With the emergence of the oil and gas sector, there's been a great expansion of the opportunities for export in terms of equipment and machinery and equipment, ingredients, raw material for manufacturing and so on in Guyana. So there's a lot of scope for exports. I would warn though that particularly when it comes to certain food items, that there is or there has been an instance or two where suppliers at this end have tried to pass off expired products and so on. In some cases, not just alone, but in cahoots with some unscrupulous
Yes, that's not
in Guyana as well.
no.
And so as a chamber, we have warned against that kind of practice. We think it's unethical and unsafe, unhealthy, and criminal. And so, we encourage particularly our membership to ensure that they do business in a legitimate way, so as not to find themselves in any difficulties down the road.
Absolutely, and I think it's really important. One of the that you actually lead me into my very next question that I had, especially with the oil and gas coming out of Guyana and all these industries that you just named that Guyana is sort of known for. Tell me a little bit about the ease of doing business in Guyana. Meaning, if someone contacted your chamber right now and said, I really want to get in on this oil and gas, I have XYZ to offer, how can I get in to maybe invest or partner with a company or, get some sort of involvement? What sort of ease of business are we looking at?
Okay, let's deal perhaps first with the investment side, and then I'll deal with the trade side.
Okay.
On the investment side, Guyana admittedly was not prepared in terms of the skills that are necessary and so on for to ensure that Guyanese totally exploited or took advantage of the opportunities that would arise. So we are a little behind the curve, or somewhat behind the curve in terms of having the skills set. At least for those at home, there might be some people in the diaspora who work in the oil industry and so on. But we're behind the curve. And so for entities in the US that offer certain services, for instance, like let's say underwater welding, for instance, there are opportunities for a company like that to team up with a Guyanese company because actually there's legislation in place to encourage what is called local content in the oil and gas industry. But whether we are fully prepared, and the answer is no, we are not fully prepared to take the kind of advantage that we ought to be taking for the benefit of Guyanese people and Guyanese businesses. So I'm saying that there are opportunities for companies to get into joint ventures with locals, where those companies here have certain skills and expertise and experience. And I mentioned underwater welding, but there are a number of other
types, right? Because
the other thing too about this is that as revenue continue to come in to the country, you will see, and it has started, funds being used to enhance infrastructure. You'll see funds being used to enhance education, funds being used to enhance manufacturing, and so on. So, for instance, energy is an area that renewable energy, although we are an oil and gas country, the oil is going to run out at some point, and the country is going to live on. So the renewable energy investment in solar and other renewable energy sources, again, is another opportunity to get into the Guyana market. Logistics in support of the oil and gas industry, also an area that is open for business.
Like shipping, trucks, logistics in terms of shipping, oil rigs.
Supply, the supply chain in terms of warehousing, massive warehousing.
Okay.
And the storage of things like pipelines and that kind of thing. Not only for the oil and gas industry directly, but for some of the other developments that are going to take place, like for instance, the bids were just closed um, for the construction of a second bridge across one of our major rivers, the Demerara River, which is going to see, the need for a lot of supply of
services and products and everything.
stuff
Yeah.
to deal with, bridge construction.
Yeah.
There's a lot of road construction going on as well. And of course, a couple of years ago, there was a bridge built across a river called the Takatu River, which links Guyana and Brazil. So there's talk, and for some time now, and I'm sure that we're going to see some movement on the development of a deep water harbor in Guyana. So that would mean, opportunities for the company.
Construction and stuff like that.
Dredging of rivers, which is something I don't think we have the large scale capacity to do by ourselves or by themselves in Guyana.
Right.
So you see things like dredging of the river, and then I understand that the stuff that comes out of the river, when you dredge it, could be processed to do all kinds of other things. So there's some spin-off opportunities there as well. Then in agriculture, food, I think one of the things that COVID has done is brought out the importance of food production, because in terms of the supply chain, we saw where, with COVID and other kinds of
in terms of food, isn't Guyana known for rice as well? I've always known Guyana for rice and gold.
Sugar,
those are
some of our major exports. Rice is still a major export. But I'm saying that in what exists now is the opportunity to go beyond just the production of primary, not the production, but the cultivation and of primary projects, and move to value added, meaning that you can process processing agribusiness. You can process your plantains into plantain chips. So they say that the soursop is a fruit that is good
anti-cancer.
So there's a possibility now for with reduced energy and more reliable energy for manufacturing things like soursop juices and soursop ice cream, and that goes beyond soursop. There are a number of fruits. As a matter of fact, there's one company, Demerara Distillers Limited, the rum producers have diversified their operations tremendously and have gone into a number of years now, but they're expanding with I think a $20 million US expansion program to do more juices and milk. Using reconstituted milk initially, but then moving on to helping to develop the local dairy industry to use local cow's milk as well. So
just interject, Wesley, the agriculture, I think there is going to be a major.
Yes, Eldon, you keep freezing on us.
Oh no.
I don't know.
Something with his connection.
Yeah, something.
When he pops back in, we can have him finish his thought. I want to just say for our listeners out there, the reason that we're getting into this is because this is part of the this is part of what the chamber does. The chamber will help connect both worlds. We're talking Guyana. So if you're looking for an opportunity to do some sort of business in Guyana, I know back in the day, pre-COVID, you used to have their trade missions as well, and we can talk about that next. But this is an opportunity where you have a representative organization within the US that has a link to Guyana. So if it's something where you want to, one of these industries sounds like, hey, that's something I do that I can help with, I would love to hear more about it. This is the chamber that you would need to contact so that you can facilitate those types of connections. But yes, Mr. Bremner, I think you're back on with us.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. The Minister of Agriculture, he's been very active in promoting agriculture. I'm also affiliated with a farm in the Rupununi, and they have a silo there, and they plant rice next, not too far from Brazil, across the river from Brazil. So that's another area for export.
That's wonderful. And is that value added too? Like, are you making rice cakes and rice products, and is that something that Guyana does already, or would they be looking to
Well, the opportunities are endless, because I mean, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can take we can zoom in on the Chinese, how they do things, because the Chinese, I'm sure they have a lot of added
rice
on
products?
yeah.
Absolutely.
And this is where the opportunities exist, and the chamber is ready and willing and able to direct and to guide people with skills and with the technology to help develop on a sustainable basis. Because in many third world countries, and particularly countries that have the capacity to do it but just don't do it. We do well with producing for exhibition, but not for
sustainability.
Not for long-term supply to markets. I've known of cases years ago where I've introduced people, for instance, a company in Guyana that produced rattan furniture, and when I introduced them to a company here, and the guy said, well, okay, our first order would be X amount. That was the year's production for that company. So, and this guy was looking for that number of pieces in about a month, and probably would have had 4 or 5 of those shipments per year. So I'm saying that we've got to now, work towards being able to produce on the scale and at the quality. Quality is key, and at the quality that would provide for us to access markets and maintain those markets.
Absolutely.
So I'm saying again, the chamber is here to help direct something. I think there are
and I think, Wesley, Guyana, I think, is very weak in marketing, and I think the chamber can really help with marketing. We can also help with our members, with setting up standard procedures and that sort of thing. Because as directors, we already have our own expertise, and we can share that with our members in order for their advancement.
Absolutely. Even the exposure to know where Guyana is, what does it produce, what does it need. Those are the types of things that need to get done. Mr. Bremner, there's a question for you.
We've been doing that over the years. As a matter of fact, in 2017, 18, and 19, we brought a number of small manufacturers from artisans, manufacturers, and so on, from Guyana to Florida for FITSE.
For FITSE, yes, I remember.
And 2019 was a particularly good year in that we were able to get the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, involved to analyze some of these products and to advise about how these products might be able to enter the US market. What were the do's and don'ts and so on, and what were the phytosanitary measures that needed to be met in the case of consumable products.
Right. And I think that is so, it's so important. It's so important to have that sort of feedback, because you're sort of working in a vacuum when you're in the Caribbean. If you're not exposed to the certifications you may need, or the standards you may need in your factories, for example, to be able to pass the tests to go ahead and export to other countries, then you're working in a vacuum and you're not working towards a goal. And that's something that our chambers can help, because we bridge those worlds, so to speak. Mr. Bremner, hold on, Wes. Hold on, Wes. Stick a pin. There's a question from Mr. Bremner that came in, and I want our producers to go ahead and ask it, please.
Mr. Bremner, in your intro, you spoke about your very rich history in hospitality. Now, being a part of the Guyanese American Chamber of Commerce, can you speak specifically to your role being a part of that board?
Yes. Guyana tourism and hospitality is in its infancy. Some time ago, before Mr. Ali was president, when he was the minister of tourism, housing and tourism, at a conference that Wesley had in Miami, he had asked me to get involved with the training of tourism, training with the GTA for small businesses, mainly small hoteliers and other leisure activities. There is a change in government; it never really got up. Further to that, I was in communication, and they're going to be building a hotel school where they're going to be preparing for the hospitality industry, because we're talking here about service quality and service and quality products and quality services, not only for hotels. Am I on?
Yes, we can hear you.
Not only for small hotels, because part of the what we want them, I would like to see in the government is an agency in order to have an oversight of the small hoteliers, so that you'll conduct audits to ensure that they adhere to all the safety requirements, the hygiene requirements, the service quality requirements.
Oh no, did we lose him again? Right in the middle of his answer.
Yeah, but if I could continue.
Yes, please.
I think Eldon brings a wealth of experience in terms of the hospitality industry, the service requirements, and it's a pity that I hope he comes back.
He's back.
There's a lot to be done, because you'll have to have standard of procedures, because people have to be guided by procedures. Right. There have to be responsibility. There have to be accountability, and these are all things that is kind of lacking in Guyana at the moment. And we need to create a culture. We cannot overlook the role of the people. I'm very, 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 very adamant about having the people at the top of that triangle. Very adamant of that, because the investments, the country investment, is the people's assets, and they're the one who benefit little from return. We want to see how we can address that. So it's not only small hoteliers, not only Guyana, but by extension the Caribbean. We got to ensure that we don't have a dominance of one particular type of brand in order to monopolize the situation. Everybody must be able to survive. It has to be proportionate how we plan the tourism and hospitality industry. We are already placed on the map as by the ITB trade show in Berlin, where Guyana in 2018 was named the number one tourist destination. Now, Guyana has to be so market focused that they can take that and run with it. They can take that and exploit that reputation.
Absolutely. This is the first time I'm hearing about this, and I'm from Guyana.
Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
We're very, very poor in marketing, and
the number one eco-tourism destination. We get some flack.
Eco, yes.
You're right. You're right.
Eco-tourism destination number one, and the ITB trade show is the world's top trade show for hospitality and tourism. So you cannot want it bigger than that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you for your answer.
Well, I think to summarize, the chairman can contribute a lot to small businesses. We just have to guide them along the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and where that Eldon's role is important here. It's not that we are suggesting that Guyana doesn't have the expertise at home to do that, but given his experience and the link between the hotel industry, the hospitality industry in Guyana, because a lot of the clientele will come from the US. A lot of the supplies will come from the US. And so it is important that those businesses operate at a certain level, so that they can remain in business, so that the businesses here can continue to supply and earn.
Wesley, I should have mentioned, when I was in Georgetown some time ago, Minister Ali had also invited me to the conference center to make a presentation to the small hoteliers. And that presentation, he was so pleased with the presentation, and that was the reason that he invited me to get involved with the GTA.
Yeah. So my producers are telling me there's another question. Go ahead. My producers, can you please? I'm not going to get to any of my questions for them. Maybe.
So this question says, what domestic...
I already have to skip over so many. Go ahead, please.
What domestic challenges needs to be addressed if Guyana wants to achieve a longer term and equitable trajectory of economic expansion?
Wait, before you answer, I'm going to have them come back on the show, because I haven't gone through half of my questions. So I feel like that question is so big, it's probably going to take our next 7 minutes. Okay. Yes, Wesley, please go ahead.
Okay, no, I'll try to think. Look,
it's a huge question.
No, it is a very huge question, but like I said, some of the constraints and so on are being addressed. The cost and reliability of electricity, that's being addressed. There are some issues like crime, which if you compare it to some other places is not extraordinarily high, but it's still a problem. And people want to go to destinations that are safe. As tourists, investors want to go to destinations that are safe and so on. We've got to also improve our healthcare facilities. Our level of healthcare needs upgrading, and one hopes that with the infusion of capital from oil and gas, that those things. And then we have an issue that on the outside, it would appear a lot more troublesome than I think it really is, and that is the question of racial social cohesion. At the political level, if you follow the news, sometimes you'll think we have one of the greatest racial divides in the country. That is, I must admit, yes, there is a problem. It's an issue that there needs to be a conversation about. There's an issue that perhaps needs some constitutional reform and so on to help to cushion the worst effects of that problem. So those are some of the things. But like I say, I don't think those are game stoppers in terms of the thing. Of course, the other issue that again is not unique to Guyana is corruption. Again, not as high as and as troublesome as in some other places, but that's no excuse for it. Sometimes I think at the political level on each side, when one is in power, the other one accuses it of corruption. When the other one gets in, which is usual.
It's every Caribbean country.
But I think
that's the same thing.
That that there once those issues reach the court, once somebody is charged and so on, I think we have a judiciary that is quite fair and above political influence for the most part, that can determine such cases. I think in a nutshell, so as not to take up all of your thing,
yes.
I took 2 minutes, I think.
Okay, very good. You can tell that you're a diplomat. You stay right on point with timing. Okay, in the next 5 minutes, I think I'm gonna do something here because I didn't get to half of my questions, but in the next 5 minutes, I want us to talk about some activities of the chamber, specifically the trade mission, because I think that's very important. Definitely eligibility and the levels of how they can sign up, and we definitely have to put your contact information out there. Then, for our listeners out there, Wesley is also on the co-chair of the Institute for Caribbean Studies, and every year in June, in the third week of June, there's a Caribbean American Legislative Week. So I think that my show that I'm going to have the week before that, I would like to invite you on to be a guest so we can talk about Caribbean American Legislative Week. So that's outside of the small business spotlight, but I wanted to talk about it in this show today.
To the small business sector.
It is very relevant. I wanted to have an opportunity to at least talk about it here, but we're not going to have the time. So I'm going to bring you back the week before the Caribbean American Legislative Week, and then we can have that discussion on that specific initiative. Now, for the chamber, since we're highlighting the chamber, can we hear more about an activity that the chamber is going to do, specifically the trade mission, and then also eligibility and how people can sign up and your contact information?
Okay, well, we've done trade missions in the past. We want to do more, but we are, of course, restricted at this moment by the COVID protocols and so on. So, you know, that doesn't preclude a company or an individual interested in exploring business possibilities from visiting Guyana. But in terms of any large scale, large numbers like the one we did with over 30 companies and 38 people or 36 people going to Guyana in 2016,
yes.
I don't think that is on the cards right now. Of course, we've done a number of virtual conferences. We did one on accessing the US market, and that was a hit.
Huge success.
Huge success. We had the State Department, we had Homeland Security, we had
me.
Agriculture, we had you.
We had me.
And again, you know, understanding the laws and the regulations for accessing this market and so on, and very, very, very important. I mean, we've had cases where people supply stuff from Guyana, and then when it gets here, you know, all kinds of claims are made by the people at this end.
Yeah.
Some of them legitimate, some of them not. But because of a lack of access to, understanding of, and access to the laws and legal advice, they suffer losses.
Right.
And so we intend to continue having virtual sessions on specific issues. At the last one, we had a number of panelists, but one of the ones that really generated an interest was the one from the U.S. Customs and Border Protection about how you protect your containers, the integrity of your containers, so that they're not, infiltrated with illegal substances and so on. So I think people have asked for some a kind of a more expanded version of that last session, the session we did on with the CPBA, and so we're planning that. I learned of an issue just recently about the possibility of Guyana becoming an open ship registry. I am not an expert on that, but apparently, one, and we have to confirm whether that is true, and two, what are the implications? Because apparently there can be some implications with that. And so there's a member of our board who has expertise in that area, and we plan to put together a panel perhaps during the month of June as part of our contribution to the Caribbean American Heritage Month, to look at that, look at that issue. Also, we want to have the Food and Drug Administration do a specialized session. The plan was to have a team from the FDA actually go to Guyana to look at some of these, the operations of some of these small business people, and to hold some workshops. Unfortunately, again, those would have been planned for last year,
COVID.
But COVID, and you know, these steps may seem very small, but they're very important. These kinds of workshops and this kind of sharing of information and advice to small things. And I'll give you a quick example. At FITSI, there was a producer from Guyana who made a soap, and the soap looks good, apparently, according to the FDA. But on the package, there was a statement, good for acne. Now, that is a medical,
claims.
that is a medical statement that has
Yes.
to be that has
Tested.
has to be tested and proven.
Right.
You know, and so, you know, had that statement not been on that box, there was a potential buyer of that thing. So now that whole thing has to be. We had planned to work on it, but again, like I said, we got you know, events of or the consequences of COVID has kind of made that not possible. But just to show you
Right,
that
because I think
little things, some little sharing of some information and advice and guidance
absolutely.
can make a whole lot of difference.
I think that a lot of producers of products don't realize that the labeling is just as important as the product and its contents. Labeling. And I saw that with a potential rum client that I had as well that was trying to import into the US. They specifically want to see what your labeling is. Before they even test the product, before they even take a look at it, they want to see the labeling. So I believe that because now you're making a medical claim and it has to be true if you're making it.
That has to be tested and proven.
Absolutely. So we're over time, but I definitely want to have you give all your contact information, social media information, because if you are planning to do any sort of business with Guyana, if you are a Guyanese company within the US, if you are a company within Guyana and you want to have access to this wealth of information that the Chamber can produce, please go ahead and look them up and sign up. Go ahead, Wes. All the contact information where these people can find you.
You know, I must say, if there's one thing I'm not, is a good salesman.
I know for sure you can find them on Facebook. You type in Guyanese American Chamber of Commerce, because I actually went on your page today and I liked it. So that's where all the information is going to be. Right. And your email address?
I think info at GuyaneseAmericanChamber.net.
.net. Okay, great.
Our office is at 4747 Biscayne Boulevard. I don't remember the zip code, but what I can do, you know, I like I said, I'm not a good
on Facebook. When you find them on Facebook, all the information is there for the organization. It's on Facebook. Yes. And then what we can do too is we can maybe make a flyer and we can post it on the show's page.
Yeah, we have brochures, but that's again,
COVID
today,
world, you know.
Today you've caught me not in the office.
That's okay.
So but again, that's I'm not a good Boy Scout. I certainly wasn't prepared.
He wasn't prepared, but the easiest thing I'm telling you is to go on that page, because all the information that we've been talking about is there. You know, I can see some of the posts that talk about the mission, and the flyer for this show was there as well, so I know that it's updated. Thank you so much for being on the show. And again, the exposure, Mr. Bremner talked about, like, you know, you can have all these great things, but you can have all this wealth of information, but if you don't have that exposure and you don't have people receiving it, then it becomes a problem. We're going to have you guys back at some point, maybe when we really roll out the organization and we can talk more about it, because I skipped probably 5 questions that I didn't get a chance to ask you today. But I want to definitely thank you for coming on and talking about your organization, helping Caribbean people. Any company that's out there that you're helping Caribbean people, I'm all for it, and I will always support it. And I want us to have that unity. Any last words, Mr. Kirton, Mr. Bremner, before I do my wrap up?
Well, all I want to say is that, you know, I think the Chamber offers its members and potential members a good opportunity to be kept informed about what's the business opportunities and what are some of the developments here in the US that affect them at the local level as well, like local laws that would affect restaurants and bars and so on. That's some of the issues that I didn't touch on some of those.
No, we're going to have you back for sure so that we can expand.
You know, just today, though, I think we circulated a circular from the Department of Labor about the need for businesses to display posters
Yes.
in keeping with federal requirements and labor laws and that kind of thing. So, there's a lot more that we can talk about. But I'm saying that the chamber is an organization that I think business people should want to be part of. And again, I apologize for not having the information. Lest there be a conflict of interest, though, I'm sure I can say that how to contact us can contact Rishma, and she will.
Yeah. Look, guys, if you want to know how to get all the information, you can email me at info@mybshow.com, and I will be sure to pass on any questions, because sometimes we get questions after the show, people who are not, they don't really want to go on air and they don't want to ask the questions. They email me at info@mybshow.com. Any questions will be forwarded to these gentlemen so that they can connect you with the right people. Mr. Bremner, if
this program is recorded, we'd certainly like to post it to our Facebook page. And
absolutely. All the programming goes on YouTube. Yes, all the programming is then posted on YouTube. And as soon as it's posted, I'll let you know so that we can go ahead and share it again and again and again for all this information. Mr. Bremner, do you have any last words before I do my wrap up?
Yes, I'm just excited, the future of the chamber. I know that we're going to be of great value to all our members, and not only to the members, also to the government. And I'm looking forward to being of assistance.
Okay, thank you. Thank you guys for being on. Thank you, Mr. Kirton. Thank you, Mr. Bremner. My wrap up today is just going to be that, we try to help each other. I say it every show. We help each other, we help our communities, and that's how we're going to go ahead. And, this is all business focused again. The chamber focuses on business. I focus on business, and you should focus on your business, because success comes when you're minding your business. Thank you, guys.
Minding your business is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be construed as specific legal advice. This show discusses general legal issues affecting business owners. Opinions of the guests are not necessarily that of the show. If you need assistance with your specific legal issue, please consult with a licensed attorney.